Good morning YouTube, my name is Yusuf and you are watching my news channel. Today we are June the 29th of 2021. So on the 27th there has been a pretty large CME. And this is actually, well, there were two, but this is not Earth facing, so I'm not going to talk about it, but this one is. This will actually hit us. And it's only a glancing blow, but nevertheless we will get hit. And this is actually interesting because on the 30th we will have a sector boundary crossing. This is basically a fold in the helio sheet, and with this we will have an interplanetary shock, as they call it. Right after, a day after or so, we will be hit by that CME. So whether this will be geoeffective or not remains to be seen, but it could be. The Space Weather Prediction Center thinks otherwise, but who knows. So, looking at flaring activity, we see a couple of sea flares, and indeed, the sun has 3 sunspots actually. And in this region, we might have a 4th one in the coming hours or days. This is actually interesting. So, these sunspots have a very big potential, but their polarities are not mixed. So these are not complex sunspots, but if they do become complex, then we will have an increase in solar activity. And even from this region, because this region, as you can see, hasn't produced any sunspots, but it has lots of magnetic loops. It has, with the associated polarities, and even if no sunspot actually form, if these actually start mixing, respectively with their polarities, if blue and orange start mixing, we could even see CMEs and basically flaring activity from this region, because flaring activity happens when these magnetic loops reconnect on the sun. So lots of potential, and if you look at stereo ahead, we can actually see how the sun will look like in a day or so. So all these sunspots will be facing Earth, and if a sunspot actually forms over here and over here, all of a sudden we will have 5 on the Earth facing side of the sun. If some of them becomes complex, we could see a rise in flaring activity. Okay, let's switch to the solar wind and talk about that sector boundary crossing, which will happen on the 30th. So on the 30th, as you can see, we will be crossing a fold in the helio sheet, and this brings a shock, of course, with it. I can't tell you whether this will be geoeffective or not, but chances are it might be. And right after this, on the 1st of July, but here you don't see it because that CME hasn't been computed in this simulation, we will have a glancing blow. So you have to imagine that there is a CME over here just reaching our planet moments later. Looking at the solar wind, there isn't much to talk about today. Everything looks normal. Whether it is the busy component, the density, the speed, or the temperature, everything shows normal values. When we look at the Schumann resonance, at the moment of speaking, there isn't much activity, but we can see past activity that was present. This is important because it covers the human brain. It has the same frequencies as the human brain, so it will be interesting to see when we pass on the 30th that sector boundary crossing, if it will actually leave a signature on the Schumann resonance. Today I will not be running these simulations, but there is something I want to show nonetheless. Actually, I already saved it, so I'm not going to run the simulation. Let me just go to it. It was an image. Yes. So this is actually what I wanted to show. This is how the magnetosphere right now is normal. There are no anomalies, and this is how the current belt looks like. Around these closed field lines, you have that red hue, which represents energy. These are the current belts, and this is how it is supposed to look like. This is important because when an anomaly happens in the future, I do have a reference point to show you how it is supposed to look like. Okay, let's move further. And by the way, if you haven't done already, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notifications, or set it at least on, because this way you won't miss any future content. And if you're actually enjoying this particular video, why not hit the like button also? So let's take a look at earthquake activity. Should be mentioned that right now there isn't much going on. In fact, the two biggest quakes are only 5 pointers, one in the Vanuatu region, and the Ring of Fire, I believe it's this one over here, yes, and one in Japan, and actually the coast of Japan over here on the Bonin Islands. So this is just compensation movement, nothing to worry about. But if we look at at Puerto Rico, we see actually a quake swarm. Yes, right over here. And this is actually interesting because there is a tectonic plate that sort of curves over here, Puerto Rico Trench. And right over here we have actually islands. And in these islands, some of them have volcanoes. For example, this is a very known one, the Montserrat Island, which harbors a volcano on the Soufriere Hills, I believe. But also in Martinique, and I do believe other islands as well. So this is important because this this quake swarm, could indicate that there's actually a flow of lava, that there is a lava flow going on, underground lava flow underneath these volcanoes, and thus it might indicate an increase in volcanic activity. So we might have a volcanic eruption, or a 5-pointer or 6-pointer over here caused by volcanic activity. So these two are clearly related, in my opinion, because usually swarm is associated with lava flow, underground lava flow. Okay, let's switch to something entirely different, the Arctic. The Arctic anomaly itself, which I have been talking about, has disappeared. This is normal. In the summer it tends to disappear and then reappear in autumn and towards the winter. But I did see a few specks forming. This is actually the same thing, you know. This is actually patches of warm water underneath the ice pack. In fact, if you look at the sea salinity map, we can see them. And this indicates they have already been melting ice underneath the ice pack. So it's exactly the same situation as the anomaly, only less pronounced, less severe. What also struck my attention is this particular patch of water, which is around almost 9 degrees. It's even warmer than this over here. This over here is just a river discharging in the sea. But this, I have my doubts. This could be an underwater current, because when we look at the sea salinity, we don't see actually much of a change. This indicates that this is not ice. This is not water that's flowing actually from Greenland, and I couldn't know why. I can't imagine such an amount of ice that melted and warmed the water almost to, you know, if you look at the temperature again, almost to 10 degrees. This has to be an underwater current popping up in this region. So this is actually noteworthy, I think. Other than that, we can see that the ice pack is melting nicely. There could be ice export from the Fram Strait, but this is dependent on conditions, or atmospheric conditions over the Arctic, whether is a storm or not developing over there. This over here still hasn't been open water, but as you can see, the damage that the anomaly has caused is still there, it is present, and at some point it might become open water, but we will see in a few weeks or so. This is the ice concentration map, and again we see that the melt is well underway, but there's still lots of concentration of that ice, as you can see. Okay, let's switch to the philosophical quote before I end this video. No man learns to know his inmost nature by introspection, for he rates himself sometimes too low and often too high. By his own measurement, man knows himself only by comparing himself with other men. It is life that touches his genuine worth. So rather than comparing yourself to other person, if you want to see if you are a good or bad person, it is actually more indicative to look at your past actions. And most of all the choices that you have made, whether they were good choices, bad choices. This is more of an indication of your actual worth than just comparing yourself to someone else. This is it, people, the end of the video. Again, thanks for watching, and I hope we see each other next time. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.